I knew by the title alone that I was going to enjoy The Librarian, and that is certainly the case. Of course, I've absolutely loved the Doris Day show until this point, and there is no exception here, but I have to say, maybe it wasn't one of my favourite episodes, and I think that's because it was set largely away from the house. And I didn't think that would have made a difference to me, but actually, I think it kind of did. Nevertheless, really enjoyed it. This is the ninth episode of the first season of The Doris Day Show, directed by Bob Sweeney, and this aired originally in December 1968. And in this one, LeRoy ends up becoming smitten with a librarian. This librarian is Winifred Proxmire, played by Kelly Jean Peters. And to impress her, he takes out a lot of books from the library and he decides to, well, not reveal his true self. He comes across more as a lot more learned than he is because he doesn't obviously want to admit that he doesn't really read. He's not a scholar, he's not academic, and he wants to impress her. So he asks Doris Martin, played of course by Doris Day, for some help with this, and she begins to read poetry to him, and I absolutely love the concept of Doris Day reading poetry. I'd hoped she'd read some Byron, she read some Shelley, still pretty decent. Of course, the big question is, will this librarian ever find out the truth about LeRoy? Or will he be able to get away with this? Of course, in life you should never pretend to be somebody you're not, because if somebody likes you for the wrong reasons, that's not going to last forever. I rather enjoyed it. I liked the scenes in the library. I'm not saying that I didn't. I think the way that it was, the staging was set up worked really well. And obviously there are books everywhere and you can almost smell them, because obviously the books at the time may not have been that old, but certainly you can smell them as being a lot more antiquated now. And I rather enjoyed it, and I felt for LeRoy. He kind of reminds me in this episode more than ever of Woody from Cheers. I'm aware that Cheers came after this, but that kind of wanting to be a better version of himself to impress other people, even though he's actually likable and lovable and actually a great personality when he is being himself. And I kind of wanted the best for him, but I could understand what he was doing. And there's this really horrible moment. I mean, it's wonderfully done, it comes across very well, but it's difficult to watch. This is a slight spoiler for something that happens. I won't say what the outcome of this incident is. Maybe incident's too strong a word, but I'm going to explain this. LeRoy decides to get up, tiny spoiler, he decides to get up and read a poem. And instead of reading a poem from one of the notable greats, he decides to read a poem that was told to him. And it doesn't use floral language, it doesn't overcomplicate things. And it's actually a really beautiful poem. But the room is full of academics and scholars and learned individuals, and they basically scoff at him, and their silence speaks volumes. And it was brutal to watch because there he is standing in front of this room of very judgmental people and bearing his soul by sharing something that actually means quite a lot to him. And they basically either titter at it or, as I said, silently do not respond at all, which itself is very rude and disrespectful. And it's difficult to watch. And for somebody like me who is a reader, I am a writer, I do hold a lot of the greats in high regard. I understand where they're coming from. There is this almost snobbery that I don't agree with, but there is an element of snobbery that poets should be of a certain caliber and poems should be written in a certain way. And because LeRoy has ventured outside of that, they look down on him. And it's difficult to watch, but at the same time, it's real. It's true. This exists today. This isn't just a product of the 60s. People are judgmental in this way today. And it was beautifully done and very effectively delivered, but it was hard to watch. And as I said, we do have some scenes at the house. The boys are in it a little bit. Grandpa's in it a little bit. Brilliant Denver Pyle. Aggie is slightly in it as well, but not as much as I would have hoped. So it does kind of deviate from the usual setup, which is a nice, refreshing change. But at the moment, I prefer the episodes that are filmed in the house with the main family unit, But I liked it. LeRoy's a very likable character. It was hard to see him kind of being dragged through this emotional journey, but at the same time, really enjoyable. Still absolutely loving the Doris Day show. Really cannot wait to see what else this show has in store.